Welcome back to Galaxy Recaps. Today we'll be diving into an action thriller film titled Two Guns. Enjoy the recap. The movie kicks off with Bobby and Stig driving to a local diner. While Stig heads inside to grab them a table, Bobby crosses the street to the bank. There, he rents a safety deposit box, securing the keys before joining Stig at the table. Over breakfast, Bobby casually remarks that the bank is an easy target for a robbery. As they begin plotting, a pair of police officers walk in, catching their attention. Excusing himself, Stig heads to the restroom where he sets off the fire alarm. As chaos ensues and the diner evacuates, he tosses his lighter at the stove, igniting a fire before slipping out with Bobby. Flashback to a week earlier in Mexico. Bobby had met with drug kingpin Papi Greco to discuss the grisly beheading of Little Toro, a middleman skimming off the top of Papi's narcotics operation. Bobby handed over a stack of passports, expecting payment in drugs. But Papi insisted on paying in cash instead, promising narcotics only when he could deliver. Bobby, unimpressed, returned the money and left the passports behind. On the way out of Papi's farm, Bobby informed Stig about Little Toro's fate. Determined to avenge him, Stig suggested robbing a Texas bank known to funnel $3 million in cartel cash every 2 weeks, a bank tied to Papi's operation. Confident in their plan, the duo returned to the U.S. only to be taken in for questioning about their Mexico visit. Bobby stonewalled DEA agent Deb, while Stig proved equally uncooperative. In a private meeting with his superior, DEA agent Jessup, Bobby admitted he hadn't hidden any narcotics because he'd never received any. Deb joined the conversation as Jessup pushed Bobby to flip Little Toro to their side. Bobby lied, claiming he was close to turning him, but in reality, Little Toro was already dead. Here, it's revealed that Bobby is an undercover DEA agent. Jessup gives him 2 weeks to either recruit Little Toro or lose his case against Papi entirely. That evening, Bobby confided in Deb, who is also his lover, revealing Little Toro's death. He swore her to secrecy, asking her to keep it from Jessup, and proposed an alternative plan: rob Papi's Texas bank. He believed they could access Papi's private deposit box and bust him for tax evasion instead. The next morning, Bobby and Stig began surveillance on Papi's house. From a stakeout across the street, they watched Papi hand a suitcase to one of his men. The duo tailed the courier, eventually splitting up, Stig heading to a diner while Bobby checked out the bank. After triggering the fire alarm in both locations, they regrouped and left together unnoticed. That evening, Bobby updated Deb on their plan to rob the bank the following afternoon. He also arranged for her to arrest Stig during the heist to keep his cover intact. While Bobby prepared for the job, Stig had his own meeting with Lieutenant Commander Harold Quint. It's revealed that Stig is an undercover Navy SEAL, also targeting Papi on orders from his admiral. Quint shared a larger mission, using the $3 million from the heist to fund covert operations against Papi and other cartels. Unbeknownst to each other, Bobby and Stig are working undercover with opposing agendas, yet aiming at the same target. The next afternoon, Bobby and Stig arrive at the bank but head next door to the police station first. Donning masks and brandishing guns, they force the officers inside to lock themselves in the cells, ensuring there will be no pursuit during the heist. With the police contained, they shift their focus to the bank. Inside, they command everyone to stay calm and follow their instructions. Taking the keys to the safe deposit vault from the manager, Stig plants explosives and blows the vault open. Expecting to find cash in just a few boxes, they're stunned to discover that every single box is packed with money. Realizing they've hit a much bigger score than planned, they start loading all the cash onto carts. Bobby, always meticulous, approaches the security guard and instructs him to ensure no civilians are caught in any potential crossfire. Before leaving, he hands the guard the key to free the police officers. Outside, however, Bobby is shocked. There's no sign of Deb or the expected law enforcement unit. The street is eerily empty, allowing them to load the cash into their getaway vehicle with no resistance. Once they've escaped far into the desert, Stig stops the car and the duo begins counting their haul. They're astounded to realize they've made off with much more than Papi's $3 million, leading them to question who the rest of the money belongs to. Suddenly, the tension rises. Stig pulls a gun on Bobby, suspecting him of ulterior motives. Bobby reaches for his own weapon, but Stig fires first, wounding him in the arm. As Bobby collapses, his DEA badge falls into view, shocking Stig. Realizing Bobby's true identity, Stig takes the cash and drives off, leaving him behind. Back at the bank, Earl, a mysterious and dangerous figure, interrogates the manager, refusing to believe the robbery couldn't have been stopped. Surveying the scene, Earl also dismisses the diner fire as a mere coincidence. He's clearly piecing together a much bigger picture. Meanwhile, Stig reports to Lieutenant Commander Harold, revealing they've secured over $43 million. Harold orders the money to be transported to their base but reprimands Stig for not finishing off Bobby, warning that leaving loose ends could jeopardize the mission. In the desert, Bobby encounters two men in a buggy. Using his gun, he forces them out and takes their vehicle to make his escape. Elsewhere, Stig returns to the desert with Harold to ensure there's no trace of Bobby. However, Harold betrays him, attempting to have Stig abducted. Reacting swiftly, Stig fights back and flees. The high-speed chase ensues across the desert, but Stig's quick thinking and agility allow him to evade Harold's squad. Bobby, wounded and desperate, finds his way to a veterinarian clinic. The vet, Dr. Ken, initially refuses to help, claiming he isn't equipped to deal with gunshot wounds. Bobby, however, reveals his identity as a DEA agent and threatens to expose the vet's connections to narcotics trafficking. Intimidated, the vet patches him up. Later, Bobby borrows the clinic's van to track down Deb. That evening, Bobby follows Deb to a hotel where she's meeting with her partner. Catching her at the elevator, Bobby confronts her, revealing that he was shot by Stig. When Deb insists she was at the bank on time, Bobby grows suspicious, wondering if the heist occurred earlier than planned. He asks her to run another background check on Stig before leaving for Stig's apartment himself. Meanwhile, Earl follows Bobby's trail to Dr. Ken's clinic. When the vet refuses to disclose information about Bobby, Earl shoots him in the knee, leaving the scene in search of more clues. Breaking into Stig's apartment, Bobby is startled to hear Stig's voice on the answering machine. Stig, watching from a sniper post across the street, urges Bobby to pick up the call. Suspicious and on edge, the two finally connect but struggle to trust each other after recent betrayals. Just as tensions peak, Stig spots Harold's hit squad approaching the apartment. He immediately warns Bobby to hang up, hide, and prepare for a fight. As Bobby stealthily navigates Stig's apartment, his phone buzzes. Stig is calling. From a sniper's perch across the street, Stig offers real-time guidance, directing Bobby to shift hiding spots just as Harold's hit squad breaches the entrance. Their coordinated efforts keep Bobby one step ahead, but eventually, the assailants corner him. In a decisive move, Stig opens fire on his former comrades, creating chaos that allows Bobby to escape. Meanwhile, Earl and his team confront Agent Jessup, holding him at gunpoint. Unaware of this, Bobby arrives at Jessup's residence and learns from Deb that her investigation into Stig yielded no significant findings. Determined to uncover the truth behind the stolen money, Bobby plans to confess everything to Jessup. However, upon entering, he witnesses Earl shooting Jessup. Earl interrogates Bobby about the heist, but Bobby feigns ignorance. Refusing to reveal his identity, Earl accuses Bobby of being a corrupt agent responsible for Jessup's demise. Using Bobby's own gun, Earl executes Jessup, framing Bobby for the murder and threatening to ruin his life unless the stolen money is returned. Desperate for answers, Bobby confronts Poppy the next day, demanding to know the true owner of the stolen funds. Stig arrives, and together they force Poppy into a car trunk. A heated argument ensues between Bobby and Stig over custody of Poppy, leading to a high-speed chase through the desert. After a crash, they brawl, eventually calming down to discuss their predicament. Upon properly introducing themselves, Stig reveals that while his superior orchestrated the plan, knowing Bobby was an agent, he was unaware of Bobby's true identity. Realizing they share a common enemy, they decide to collaborate. In a startling revelation, Poppy discloses that the stolen money belongs to the CIA, a cut from his drug operations in exchange for safe passage of narcotics across the border. Their interrogation is interrupted by Deb, who is shocked to find a drug lord in her garage, and learns of the CIA's involvement. Suddenly, Harold's team attacks the house. Amidst the gunfire, Poppy escapes, and Bobby, Stig, and Deb narrowly flee. Poppy, seizing an opportunity, commandeers a stranger's car and contacts his associates with information about Bobby's vehicle. As Bobby speculates on how Harold located Deb's place, their car is rammed and they are captured by Poppy's men. At Poppy's farm, after a brutal beating and threats involving a bull, Stig confesses that the money is secured at the Corpus Christi Naval Air Station in Harold's safe. Informed of Earl's impending arrival, Poppy confronts him and is threatened to return the money or face the collapse of his empire. Planning to double-cross Earl, Poppy gives Bobby and Stig 24 hours to retrieve the money, holding Deb's life as collateral. After a grueling trek across the border, Bobby and Stig steal a car and head to meet one of Stig's contacts, setting the stage for their next move. Equipped with weapons, Bobby and Stig head to the naval base, ready to crash their way through the entrance. As they barrel past security, they split up. Stig drops Bobby off near the command building to infiltrate Harold's office while he continues executing the rest of the plan. Inside, Bobby gains access to Harold's office while Stig confronts the Admiral, admitting the full truth about the stolen money and Harold's corruption. The Admiral, however, refuses to take action, prioritizing the Navy's integrity over exposing Harold's crimes. Meanwhile, Harold returns to his office only to be ambushed by Bobby, who has pieced together Harold's betrayal. At gunpoint, Harold is forced to open his safe, but it's empty. Bobby demands answers and learns that Harold and Deb plan to steal the money for themselves. Realizing Harold must have passed the cash to Deb, Bobby leaves the office as Stig is escorted out of the base. Grabbing a spare uniform on his way out, Bobby sneaks into the kitchen, kicks open a gas pipe, and triggers the fire alarm. To shield himself, he hides in the walk-in freezer as the explosion rocks the building. Disguised in the stolen uniform, Bobby escapes undetected, watching as Stig is taken off the base. Elsewhere, Poppy discovers that Deb double-crossed Bobby, and that the money isn't on the base as Stig believed. Furious, he contacts Bobby, warning that time is running out to save Deb. Desperate to buy time, Bobby lies, claiming he still has the money. However, Deb, realizing her fate, uses their private signal by moving her ring to her thumb moments before Poppy kills her. Heartbroken, Bobby later finds Deb's lifeless body at his home. Spotting the signal, he rushes to a motel they often used. Searching their usual room, he discovers the cash hidden there and immediately calls Earl to strike a deal. The next morning, Stig arrives at Poppy's farm, demanding help to eliminate Harold. As they negotiate, Harold launches a surprise attack, revealing a deal with Stig. Harold would help Stig kill everyone on the farm in exchange for the money. When Harold proposes betraying Stig and splitting the cash with Poppy, the drug lord agrees. However, Stig warns that Harold will ultimately double-cross him too. Just as tensions escalate, Earl arrives, forcing Stig to open his car trunk. When it's revealed to be empty, Stig is cornered, until Bobby arrives in the nick of time with the cash. Bobby hands Earl the car keys, sealing their deal and granting freedom for him and Stig. Earl begins to leave with the cash, but a reluctant Stig protests, unwilling to let Earl walk away with everything. Suddenly, Bobby detonates the car, igniting a massive explosion. Chaos ensues as Bobby and Stig open fire, taking out Poppy and Harold's men in a brutal shootout. Earl and his team, along with Harold, pursue them as they navigate through the farm's buildings. Stig takes out the pilot of the CIA's helicopter before joining Bobby in a barn where Harold and Earl track them down. A tense standoff follows, with Earl suggesting a deal to let everyone walk away alive. He reveals that the CIA has multiple stashes like this one, hinting that this loss is insignificant. However, Bobby and Stig refuse to let the corruption slide. In a climactic moment, Bobby shoots Harold and Stig takes out Earl. Finally, they locate Poppy and eliminate him as well. As they leave the farm, Bobby shoots Stig in the leg, payback for the earlier betrayal. Despite the tension, the two reconcile and stake out another bank they suspect holds CIA money. Bobby cryptically hints at keeping some of the cash for themselves, leaving their next move up in the air. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.